couldn't believe the results I was seeing with my eyes and realizing Jonathan really did have a serious problem.
Her reading level was at 2nd grade, 8th month. Writing was 1st grade, 9th month.
15 to 20 million children and adults in the United States are burdened with learning disabilities. Disabilities that will lower a child's success rate in school as well as their professional career. Over the past 40 years, Dr. Donald Lyman has developed and tested the stabilized learning system with remarkable success.
For most of my teaching years, I used to keep a journal, and whenever I came across anything that seemed to work well for a particular student, then I would try it with a number of students. And if it seemed to work pretty well right across the board, then I used to put it in my journal. I'd write them down as brain triggers. And I accumulated an awful lot of brain triggers, but they were just miscellaneous pieces of instructional information for me that I might use in the future. By the early 80s, I had pretty much put them into what we'll call a program, which is today the SLS program.
The SLS system is a 14-stage program. The early stages really introduce the child to the alphabet and the way we use it in the program through movement. It starts with a foundation of the letters and of relationships of letters to sounds, and then builds up from those basic relationships on up to words, sentences, paragraphs, where the child is in the later stages actually reading and writing using activities of the program which are all movement-based. It's a very movement-oriented program. From day one of the program, the children are not just sitting there, they're up active. It's a very physically based program, but all the physical activities relate very closely to language skills that are necessary to be an efficient student. And one of the most important things about the program is it ends. There's closure. When the child is done with stage 14, they've mastered their learning disability. It's no longer controlling them. They have the ability to go forth and to succeed academically from that point on. So it's not something that needs to be every year you come back and to be retrained and you start to see slippage. It's closure. When the child is done with stage 14 of the program, they're done with the program and they're able to go forth and go from there.
I first noticed a problem with Jonathan's learning when he was in the latter part of kindergarten. And the teacher had said to me, well, we can put him into the 1st grade and it's probably a maturity thing and he'll probably outgrow it. But we're going to try to put him into 1st grade. Well, that didn't work. 1st grade became a disaster, and that was really the first inclination that I had. As any parent can imagine, you turn to doctors, you turn to educators, and they couldn't help you. And then they would try to say, well, he's a little boy, or, well, maybe we'll try to get him through school, and it's like, no, that's not good enough. We won't settle for that. And we just had to find something else for him.
I think that a better term, rather than calling these children learning disabled, would be to call our education system teaching methodology disabled. We just, as an education system, for years have not known how to educate these children, have not understood their learning differences, and we've turned them into disabled children when they're really not. When you use the right methodology, when you teach them the way they're designed to learn, you can't call them disabled. Walk into a classroom using the SLS system, you're not seeing disabled children, you're seeing children learning. Normally, a lot of the kids are a little anxious coming in, and it's because they've had years and years of frustration in school and with reading and writing. And they realize, uh-oh, I'm going to a place where they're going to try and teach me to read and write. And I've never been able to do that in the past, and they tend to be a little negative oftentimes. Pretty quickly in the session, they learn that it's not another program where we're just going to make them sit there and look at a book and try and read in the same old way. The children from the very first day are up and are active and are engaged in activities which are challenging yet fun at the same time. So very quickly in a session, you start to see the children realize, hey, this is something different and this is something that I can adapt to because they're teaching me in the way that I'm designed to learn.
The SLS program has a lot to offer. I mean, I'm not just saying as far as his increased abilities in school, but the way he felt about himself. We finally were working with people who not only cared about him, but could do something that made him feel good about himself. He used to come out of those classes, and we would go to class 3 times a week for an hour and a half. I never had to drag him to the class because he would come home from school beat up, not physically, but beat up as a person and who he was. We used to go into that class. He used to come out like skipping after an hour and a half, it'd be 6 o'clock at night, and he was like so high because he was successful.